So far, we've gotten effects like drawing and discarding working. What about cards that use conditionals and loops? Or effects that trigger automatically? Here are some of the things we'll cover in the video. Look, we tried to subdivide it, but it didn't work. You'll see why soon enough. In our last video, we talked about card actions, but there are also card passives. While actions trigger when you use the card, passives trigger on their own and can have various effects. To give passives to a card, put them inside the note tag Card Passives. For example, in my Desperado card, I have a Require passive that checks if the player only has one card in their hand. If they do, this card can be played. The Will End Turn passive will cause the card to end the turn when it's played. In my Inazuma Kick card, I have the Will End Turn passive. That means after this card, the actor's turn will end and they will no longer be able to play cards until their next turn. It's a powerful card, but this conditional makes when to use it more strategic. The Will End Turn passive should also be placed in the skill assigned to the End Turn button. That's what makes the End Turn button end the turn. More about buttons in the next video. The Start in Zone Name passive will put the card in the specified zone at the start of battle, if it's in that actor's deck, before anything else happens. Here I've got a card called Ambush, which starts in an actor's opening hand. This lets them use the card on their first turn to deal with problematic enemies. Cards are in their starting zones before the battle start actions execute. Notice that we still draw 5 at the start of battle, so with this additional card, now our hand size is 6. And here's another card which starts in our exile zone, and needs you to play cards that draw from that zone to even be accessed. You'll want to make a few cards that interact with exile, or it'll just be stuck there. Forever. The Require passive is my favorite. Place code after the word require, and the game will execute it, expecting it to evaluate to true or false. If it returns false, the card can't be played. Here I've got a card Perfect Shape that can only be played if the actor is at full HP. Once they drop below full HP, it can't be played until they've healed up again. And here I've got a card called Stuck Between that just can't be played. It's just taking up hand space. Here I've got a card Limited Time Offer that's really powerful. But if I don't play it before I end my turn, it's removed from the game until the end of battle. So you'll want to keep that in mind the next time this shows up in your hand. Next, the Start of Turn Skill X passive, which will force the actor to use the specified skill if this card is in the player's hand at the start of their turn. That means that the card can have 2 skills attached to it, one when it's played and one whenever it starts in the hand. There's also End of Turn Skill X, which does the same thing but at the end of the player's turn. This card, Cup Runneth Over, can be used immediately for a large heal, or will heal the user a little bit every turn it stays in the hand. And finally, Enter Zone Name Skill X, which forces the actor to use the specified skill when this card enters the specified zone. And Exit Zone Name Skill X, which does the same thing when the card leaves the zone. The card Bad Mojo makes the player take 5 damage every time it's drawn. Our enemies give it to us through the card target action note tags. Bad Mojo is executing a skill that makes the user target itself for 5 damage. Wow, that's some seriously bad mojo. Wouldn't happen to me, my mojo's great. Hey Neel, what if there's a card called Good Mojo? Every passive does something different. For a full list of passives, check out our wiki page on card passives, linked in the description. Now let's move on to some advanced card action tools. We're officially entering coding territory. Let's say you want to change the number of cards you draw for an action. You can do this through the variable input by replacing the number with
/v bracket x bracket,
just like you would in a text box. So now, this card will draw 4 cards if game variable 10 is set to 4. It will draw 6 cards if game variable 10 is set to 6. Don't set it to -1, RPG Maker won't like that. The if action lets you skip card actions under certain conditions. Place an expression that evaluates to true or false, and if it's false, the game skips the next card action. This is a code expression. Here I've got a card that draws 3 cards, and then makes the user discard 3 if their hand size is greater than 6. If they have 6 or fewer cards in their hand, the discard action is skipped. The label and jump to label actions are special actions that, when used together with the if action, allow you to jump through actions within a card or item use. These work exactly like the label and jump to label commands in eventing, so the same logic applies here. You can have multiple labels and determine when in the list of card actions to jump to which label. See if you can figure out what this example would do. That's right, it does this. The eval action is the most powerful, and therefore the most dangerous action. It allows you to execute any code placed after the eval keyword. This includes any of RPG Maker's script calls, such as setting switches and game variables. This card draws 1 card for every living enemy on screen. We can even use evals for CGC functions like show card. So if you've ever wanted to show a card during battle using card actions, here's how you might go about it. This card reveals the top 3 cards of the deck for 120 frames, roughly 2 seconds, and then clears them for the screen. User.cardDeck contains the array of cards in the deck. This card accesses the first 3 items, stores their skill IDs in variables 10 through 12, and uses them in the show card function. You can use evals in ways we can't even imagine. So if it breaks your game and deletes System 32, we can't be held legally liable. That's your code, not ours. Combining card actions and card passives can let you create some very interesting cards. We look forward to seeing what you come up with. For more in this series, check out Part 6, Battle Screen Elements. And if you want to be notified when new videos come out, I hear YouTube is in the process of developing a feature that will make that easier. So subscribe to find out when that's ready.